Well, when Mr. Townhill asked me to do this, I was a bit nervous, but I thought, if the Lord wants me to do this, and He'll give me the words to say, and it will be a blessing to you all as it was to me. And just please turn with me to Job chapter number 1. I'll be starting in verse number 1. There was a man in the land of Uz whose name was Job, and that man was perfect and upright and one that feared God and eschewed evil. Now from right here what we can read is that it says he was a perfect and upright man and one that feared God and eschewed evil. And right now I just think that so far it's a great testimony that the first thing that came to many people's mind is that he was a good man and he was a perfect and upright man and he feared God. He was a godly man. It wasn't that he was one of the greatest men in all the East or that he had 3,000 camels and 500 yoke of oxen, but it was his testimony. And we'll drop down to verse number 13 now. It says, And there was a day when his sons and his daughters were eating and drinking wine in their eldest brother's house. And there came a messenger unto Job and said, The oxen were plowing, and the asses feeding beside them, and the Sabeans fell upon them and took them away. Yea, they have slain the servants with the edge of the sword, and I only am escaped alone to tell thee. While he was yet speaking, there came also another, and said, The fire of God is fallen from heaven, and hath burned up the sheep and the servants, and consumed them, and I only am escaped alone to tell thee. While he was yet speaking, there came also another, and said, The Chaldeans made out 3 bands, and fell upon the camels, and they carried them away, yea, and slain the servants with the edge of the sword, and I only am escaped alone to tell thee. While he was yet speaking, there came also another, and said, Thy sons and thy daughters were drinking and eating wine in their eldest brother's house. And behold, there came a great wind from the wilderness, and smote the 4 corners of the house, and it fell upon the young men, and they are dead, and I only am escaped alone to tell thee. So right there, in those 7 verses, Job basically just lost everything he had. All of his possessions, all of his cattle, and all of his children are just gone. And all probably happened within an hour, because it all said, while the servant was yet speaking, there came also another and another. And I think that this would just be devastating to me if I just lost everything I owned in like a very short amount of time. But Job's reaction, I was really stunned at what he did. Then in verse 20 it says, Then Job arose and rent his mantle and shaved his head and fell down upon the ground and worshipped. Now right there, my mind was blown that Job, his first reaction was that he needs to worship God, and that in verse 21 it says also, And said, Naked came I out of my mother's womb, and naked shall I return thither. The Lord gave, and the Lord hath taketh away. Blessed be the name of the Lord. In all this Job sinned not, nor charged God foolishly. Amen. Job understood that everything that he owned, it wasn't his, that it was the Lord's, and that when we are staying here on this earth, we're just here for a short time. This isn't our home. We're going to be in heaven one day with eternal riches and glory, and to be with Jesus Christ forever. And even in verse number, let's start in chapter 2, verse 6. And the Lord said unto Satan, Behold, he is in thine hand, but save his life. So went Satan forth from the presence of the Lord, and smote Job with sore boils from the sole of his foot unto his crown. And he took a potsherd to scrape himself withal, and he sat down among the ashes. Then said his wife unto him, Dost thou still retain thine integrity? Curse God and die. And he said unto her, Thou speakest as one of the foolish women speakest. What shall we receive good at the hand of God, and shall we not receive evil? In all this Job did not sin with his lips. Now even his wife, probably his best friend in life, tells him that he should just curse God and die, that it's over and that life's a mess and that he should just end it all. And I can see that a lot in today, where people, they get so depressed, or they'll be having a hard time in life, and they'll just friends, they'll just go out another night of drinking, or they'll do drugs, and then we never see them again. It's just sad how it does that. But Job still, in verse 10 it says, In all this Job did not sin with his lips. And even after that, Job still remains faithful. And at the end, in Job chapter 41, Job has his faithfulness is rewarded in that. It says in verse number 12, 42 verse 12, So the Lord blessed the latter end of Job more than his beginning, for he had 14,000 sheep and 6,000 camels, and 1,000 yoke of oxen and 1,000 she asses. He had also 7 sons and 3 daughters. And And he called the name of the first Jemimah, and the name of the second Keziah, and the name of the third Keren-Happuch. And in all the land were no woman found so fair as the daughters of Job, and their father gave them inheritance among their brethren. After this Job lived 140 years, and saw his sons and his sons' sons, even 4 generations. So Job died, being old and full of days. And I think that this is just proof that even in the bad times, even in the trials, when we're all alone and life is just so hard, that God is with us there, and that he'll be with us, and that in the end, as we stay faithful, that he'll reward us for our faithfulness, and that we just need to trust him, and he'll be with us, and that he'll take care of us.